Welcome to How to Be a Humane Leader Without Losing Your Job. We're here to chat about humane leadership in a way that's real and relatable, tackling work-life challenges and offering practical advice to navigate tough decisions. Whether you're leading a team or navigating your own career, we've got you covered. I'm Chris King, a Fortune 100 IT leader, and with me is Roberto Torres, a startup engineering leader. We'll dive into the real-world stuff, share experiences, and offer guidance on leading with compassion while keeping your career on track. Today, we'll discuss how a humane leader recognizes an underperforming team member has reached their top performance and it's unsatisfactory. Roberto, tough topic for today. That's a tough one.
Yes, because um, you could fall into bias and don't do anything with this team member, or you acknowledge this and do something about it.
Yes, so I'm going to make some assumptions here as we begin the discussion. I'm going to assume, via our other podcast recordings, you know about the things that we've done for coaching employees that are underperforming. You know about the tough conversations we've had with them about giving them good, accurate metrics for performance and so on. So I'm not going to dwell on the how do you coach them and how do you improve their performance and focus on, all right, we've reached the point, we've exhausted all of our options and it just is not, it's not delivering what we need. And now we're moving to the next stage of we're probably going to have to exit our relationship with this employee, right? They're going to have to get fired. And I'll tell you, one of the things that you don't want to do is rush into that decision. It's hard to undo it, right? Once you've declared to your peers, to your leadership, that I've decided that person X is just not going to get any better. There's no taking that back once you tell them that, right? Because that's just going to lock it in their perception. So you, as the humane leader, need to be absolutely positive it's reached that point. And one of the ways I've kind of when I've had to go through that as a leader, one of the ways I resolve it and sleep on it and say, yep, I'm good with it, is just to understand that not everybody is a good fit in every job of every role, even though that may be what the employee dreamed to do. They went to school for it, or they went to a lot of other training, or they tried to learn it on their own at home. The reality is not everybody can be a brain surgeon, a rocket surgeon, or a rocket surgeon, a rocket scientist, a super salesperson, a super engineer, whatever it is. And sometimes the reality is, as a humane leader, we've just reached our limit and it's time to move on. So my big thing is make sure you sleep on it and make sure that you're absolutely sure, but resolve with yourself as the humane leader. It's okay, because not everybody is going to be the best at the role that they're trying to go for at the moment. And maybe there's some other role once they're no longer with your firm that they're going to find, and they're going to be a star and they're going to do really good or do better than average. But in the situation they're in right now, the reality is it's just not working out. And the sooner you can, once you've made that decision, the sooner you can move forward and end the relationship, the better off you'll be. Because if you keep them for weeks and weeks after you've decided that, even as a humane leader, it's going to get harder and harder to talk to that employee knowing that their employment is coming to an end.
Yeah, indeed. Totally agree. And it doesn't matter that we are a humane leader. We have to make tough decisions whenever we have to. And if this person, this team member is not reaching the goals, is not reaching the bar that we want them to be, or that the company wants them to be, we had to make this decision. But we had to do it with hard data. We had to follow the process that the company has. If it doesn't have it, we had to go with HR, we had to go with our manager to say, hey, we have all this hard data of this employee, and I have spoken with him. I have given assignments. I have cut scope of his work and still he doesn't work because he has reached the highest level of his performance, which doesn't align with the companies. We have new goals. We have to deliver. You know, we're, as we have mentioned before in our episodes, we're a sports team, and this sports team has to have to be at the highest performance. We have to win games, or in this case, we have to deliver. If that guy doesn't follow, maybe he follows the guidelines. He maybe he tried his best or her best, but if it doesn't reach, well, we have to do this decision because if not, we're falling into bias. And when we fall into bias, we're totally deviating from the process of being a unbiased human leader, which has a team, a team, and has to provide results to the upper management.
Yes, and the reality is, if you've done your humane leadership things, the way you have to frame this is that you've done all the things that we've talked about in other podcasts, and the measurements are not there. And I'll quantify this in a job of I don't know, stacking bricks. You know, if you're stacking bricks and every day you stack 59, but the company needs 75, and next year we need 80 bricks, but you just cannot make those numbers, then you're just not in the right job. It could be because you're not strong enough to lift the bricks. Maybe you're sloppy measuring and you don't measure them to the right size, so there's a lot of defects. Whatever the role is, if it's not measuring up, sometimes it's just that you're just not capable of meeting that metric because of what's between your ears, what's in your arms, whatever the reason is. And as a humane leader, you have to kind of reflect inside and say, look, I did everything I could as a coach, maybe even used extra coaches, your peers coached this person also. Everybody was unsuccessful. Sometimes the employee is just not the right fit. And so, the way the humane leader has to deal with that is to be fair and upfront with that employee when it's time to end that employment, and try and explain to them, look, and coach them. One of the things that I tried to do too is try to coach them with, I know this was your dream job to be a painter, but the reality is your art is just not what we're looking for. And I don't know that other companies are going to be looking for that kind of art, and maybe you try and promote that, not promote them in the job, but I mean, try and help them think of positive things that they did, right? But you really tried hard, and you really, you have a strong work ethic in terms of trying to improve your skills in this art. But unfortunately, in this business, it's just not good enough. But it might apply in this other business. So maybe as you exit our company, you need to think about working in this industry. And I'll use the example of compassion, right? You really tried hard and you really care about everybody here at the company. And, but we needed this kind of thing done with these bricks. You didn't do it, but you had compassion. And I remember when Roberto wasn't feeling well, you always made a point of checking on him. Maybe you should look into the health industries where compassion and that feeling for how others are feeling is important. Because in making bricks, not very important. In the medical industry, very important to have that human compassion. So maybe this person's just in the wrong field. They will excel in something else, but it's just not in your firm. And the humane leader is in that ending of the relationship with the employee can still try and be a positive leadership, a positive force in that person's life. If you have some insights into maybe something else that they should consider doing as they exit your firm. It doesn't have to be just you didn't meet expectations, we're letting you go. Goodbye.
Yeah.
That's what a cold boss does. The humane leader says, I recognize the skills that you did have. They don't apply to what we're doing, but you had these skills that I think are good for this industry or that industry. Maybe they're super friendly. Maybe they ought to work in a hotel and restaurant industry because they're super friendly and bubbly personality. I could never be that because I was not very bubbly at work. So maybe it's that kind of conversation. We help steer them towards a career that their personality and their things that they were really good at are more important.
Yeah, indeed. We all are a bunch of stuff into one human being. We have hard skills which allow us to be at a certain position. An accountant requires hard skills that are pertinent to that position. An IT engineer requires that. A CEO, a medical, a plumber, everybody has requires hard skills, but also requires soft skills. And taking your example, maybe that girl is high in their soft skills, but has medium hard skills, or maybe it could be the opposite. When we hire someone, there is a 2D document that says these are the hard skills that we require and these are the soft skills. You have to be used to them. And when you're at the company, that 2D, two dimensions becomes 3D or becomes more dimensions. And the team member has to be blending into the company culture, has to be working on that. And maybe there is a limit to that person. Maybe that team member, as you mentioned, it has to go to another company, which allows that. Maybe at a certain company, you're required to be more aggressive and you're so passive. Well, go to a company that it is aligned to yourself. Because the thing about being at a private company, it is that always there are new goals set up for the year, maybe for the age or a quarter, and you have to be in that speedboat delivering. If you're slow, maybe you're the weakest link of the team, you will take them down. You will slow them down, actually. So it is also really important for a human leader to acknowledge that, acknowledge where we have to be, acknowledge if that team member is either slowing down or it is pushing us. So we have to remain unbiased all the time, even though we might say this guy is really good. Yeah, but in a whole sense, maybe it is not. So it is a constant exercise for us as humane leaders to understand all the times, or most of the times, if any team member it is helping, it is pushing, or it is holding us back.
Yes, and as those goals are expanding every year, every quarter, getting higher and harder to achieve, it could be that some of your average performers, and sometimes even your peak performers, eventually are below the standard that you need. And that's just human development. As the humane leader and recognizing, again, you've been coaching, you've been doing all the things we've talked about in other podcasts, but it is on that team member to continually improve. And sometimes people just don't, right? They either reach their limit, of their capabilities. I mean, there is a ceiling. Otherwise, everybody would be Elon Musk. If there was no ceiling to everybody's capabilities, everybody would be Elon Musk, super smart, super rich, super everything, right? It is a pyramid. You have to continually try and sometimes fail, but not fail too bad and do those things. But as the humane leader, we have to realize that there is a kind of a performance peak at some point. People for whatever personal reasons, maybe things are going on that they just can't dedicate the time to learning new skills constantly. Something different's going on in their life. That's okay. That's maybe they chose that this is the amount of effort I'm going to put in, but all the rest of the team is putting in more effort. Well, then this person eventually is going to be, on that curve of where we may have to get rid of them. And the humane leader needs to prepare themselves to have those tough conversations. But again, to my point around, there's how you do it, how you talk to that employee at the time you're letting them go, is to help them recognize that it's not that they made zero contributions. They made contributions. It's now that the contributions have to be even higher. And then again, with the positive spin, maybe there's some positive thing that you can help that employee in their exit discussion to help them see a way forward as they leave the company. When you mentioned accounting, I think about accounting being a very specific industry, right? They got certain rules they got to follow all the time. The laws change a little bit of accounting, but in general, accounting practices have stayed pretty much the same for a long time. But there are different kinds of accountants, right? There are accountants who are in big consulting firms where they go in and do financial audits. There are accountants who help you with your personal taxes that you have to pay for the government. There are, accountants who do just bookkeeping for a whole bunch of different little companies because they help those companies keep their business records straight. Those all take different kinds of personalities. And maybe you'll recognize in this employee that with their personality, there's something, a particular niche of the industry that you're in, that they would be better suited for than what you're doing currently. Hey, you were great for us and you helped us with these goals, but now, with your style of doing things, I really think that, forensic accounting, where you're looking into people who have broken the law, you might want to go and look at government jobs going forward, because I really think you'd excel at that, and doing forensic accounting, which is, where they're looking for people that have broken the rules. That's why, you have to let the employee go because they're just not delivering, but you can still have a positive spin on it with what did they do well that may not be a good fit for your company. And think about that. I think that will help humane leaders sleep at night, because letting somebody go and ending their employment is a terrible thing. I always lost sleep over it. And, but what I would always think about is what can I do to help them move forward? Because this may be the last time I speak to them. What can I say? I don't know how much they'll remember out of that conversation, but if you can try and point them in directions where you truly and honestly think that they could be much more successful than at your firm, then that's what a real humane leader does.
Yes, indeed. There is a big difference between us humane leaders and a boss. Humane leaders, we care. You mentioned it. You don't sleep, neither do I. It is before and after that, because we to be on the other side. And when people lost their jobs and their recurring income, they feel bad. Actually, we're talking to humans. We're not talking to a rock or a wall. The difference between a boss is that a boss won't touch their heart. Okay, I had to fire one, I had to fire 1,000 or 100,000. It is just numbers now. It's not. We're talking about humans. And we humane leaders, as we are, we tend to care. But when we reach the limit, because we have a limit that we cannot cross, we cannot break, and we had to reach it, then decisions had to be made. That's why we are managers and or above. The thing is, we have to do it, because otherwise the team will crumble, the company will ache, and we don't want to do that. So
Yep.
hard decisions had to be done, regardless of the position. As humane leaders, as you mentioned, we care. And maybe that team member will feel, I wouldn't say that will feel good because maybe they're, fighting against a system that it is not theirs. But maybe that person will find their place when it comes.
Yes, they'll find their path that will feel much better than they ever felt working for us.
Yeah. Well, for the company, but for us
Yes.
not.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yes.
Yeah. Well, with this, we'll end this episode. A good one. And I'll see you next week.
See you next week.